Hi guys, welcome to another episode of PB Garage. Today I'm installing intercoolers. Okay, bye.
So a couple of quick tips before you install these intercoolers. The silicone couplers, they are a bit delicate. There's sharp edges on the intercooler itself. So when I was doing test fitting and putting these couplers on, I did manage to mangle an edge of the silicone coupler and it broke off. Just watch that doesn't happen to you and you don't leave any pieces inside your intercooler or your hoses or your piping. Another thing too is little bits of metal from the fabrication process of these intercoolers. Blow them out with compressed air or flush them with water, whatever method you think is appropriate, but definitely do that and get those little pieces of metal out of there before you install these. On the driver's side, there's 4 rivets, 3 here and 1 up here. You drill those out and then you can remove this whole bracket. To be able to get the intercooler in through this gap, you've got to remove the bumper bracket and then these 2 bolts here, actually there's 1 here as well, 3. You can pull this just gently out of the way and the intercooler will slide through. I've got my bipipe installed already with the supplied couplings that came with the SRM intercooler. Move your connectors out of the way for your turn signal headlights. So on this one, I think I'm going to connect my bottom hose first, and then I'll do my bipipe up top. For my fender screws, you can see how when I press the fender against the bracket, it won't hit the bracket. So on this side, I can force it. This side it won't. It's interfering with the intercooler here, my fender. So I want to pull my intercooler in this way a bit, but I can't push the intercooler in any further. There's room up here between the intercooler and the frame rail, but this coupler is too long, so it's hitting on the back side here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut about 1/2 inch off of this, and hopefully that'll give me the room that I need. So that extra 1/2 inch that I cut off the coupler helped. The intercooler moved in a little bit. It's closer to the frame rail now. Here on this side, you can see that when I push the fender up, it'll hit that bracket without any issues. For the horn, it's interfering with the intercooler here, just on the back side. So I'm just going to bend this a little bit. Maybe not, it's pretty hard to bend. I'll get some pliers and try it. I've loosened the nut at the back here so that I can rotate this. Now when I put it up there, yeah, that'll clear. And I'm going to put the horn in. Try that position. The horn is really tight, as you can see down in here. I've had to break away a section of the horn where it flares out, just so that I had a bit of clearance between the bumper and the intercooler itself. On the passenger side, the bracket's a little bit more complicated. So there's 4 rivets as well. There's 3 studs, which the AC dryer mounts to. And then there's another nut that's on this stud here, which is just for a bracket on the side. So to remove this, you take out the 3 nuts that hold your dryer on. Then this is a bit more loose. You can disconnect the bracket underneath that holds the lines to the oil pan. That helps as well. Accessing these with a drill is kind of tricky. This one is the most difficult, and I used a Dremel with a very small cutoff wheel and just ground it a bunch and then use a drill on a bit of an angle to drill out more material, and then it pops right off. So these 3 you can sort of access with a drill. It's a bit tricky, but it is doable. Once this is out, you use the supplied bracket with the SRM intercoolers. I had to bend mine a little bit because it still would interfere with the intercooler. There wasn't enough room between this frame rail and the dryer itself. So by bending it back, the bracket a little bit, it pulls the dryer in a bit closer to the frame here and gives you the clearance that you need. So you can use the intercooler to just push this out of the way as you install it. To give it a bit of support, you can connect your bipipe to the throttle body boot up at the top. So this is the passenger side showing the radiator support modifications. I've just cut underneath here and down the side so that it wouldn't hit the intercooler. And I've also shaved a little bit up top right here. This used to come out and interfere with the intercooler right there. I've done the same thing on the driver's side, so still just touching here. Not that bad though, I think I'm gonna leave that. And same just down the side here. Okay, so I've mocked everything up. I've got the rad support on, the intercoolers are in, the couplers are connected. Now I have to drill the holes through the mounting tabs on the intercooler. So I'm going to take the rad support off. Now that I just know that everything clears and there's no interference issues, I'll take this off, I'll drill the holes on the intercooler tab, and then put everything back on. So another thing here are the hose clamps on the upper couplers. I've got them pointing up because I thought I would access them easier from above, but they're actually going to clash with my headlights, so I'm going to have to turn them in a different direction, probably on the back side, pointing towards the back on an angle. Did the same thing over actually these ones aren't too bad. I haven't put the headlight in yet, but you can see here how they're pointing up. I'm going to angle those back a little bit just to get them out of the way for the headlight to go in. And the last thing I'm going to mention are the bolts for your bumper shocks. The one on this corner here will go through and puncture your intercooler if you don't reduce the length of that bolt. Same on the other side, right here. You want to just cut that down, maybe, I don't know, 10 mil, and then you're good to go. Okay guys, just want to give a quick update on the SRM intercooler install. Overall, they've been performing great, but I do have a minor vibration issue with the passenger side intercooler here. It's a real tight fit between the frame rail and the AC dryer, so there's not a lot of clearance. And what I've noticed is over small bumps in the parking lot, there's a rattling sound coming from this area. So I'm just going to show you some quick fixes to help kind of resolve that problem. So the first clash is on top of this frame rail here, there's this seam. It's interfering with this hose clamp underneath. So the problem I have is my bipipe, the mount here where it bolts to the timing belt cover, it's broken. The intercooler is sitting just a little bit lower than it normally should be. And I think it would have enough clearance if this was intact, but it's not. If you just listen here as I wiggle this, you'll hear it kind of tapping the frame rail. So what I'm going to do, I'm not going to use this specific piece. This is a piece of scrap, but I've taken a piece of rubber hose. I've just slid it lengthwise. I'm going to fold it over top of this seam, just like that. Obviously, it's going to be underneath the hose clamp, and that's just going to isolate the metal on metal contact and hopefully quiet that interference. So the other area that's causing me problems is right in this area here. So there's the same frame rail, and I've already put in the rubber fix. So I've just taken the same piece of rubber hose, slid it, and I've wrapped it around the frame rail here because the intercooler was contacting right in that corner. You can see as I wiggle the intercooler, how it's just touching that rubber. Basically it was sitting right on the frame rail and it was a metal to metal contact and just causing a bit of rattle. You can see like that hose is only about 1/8 of an inch thick, and then if I look on the other side of the intercooler here, I've got about maybe 1/8 of an inch to my AC dryer. So there's not a lot of room for this intercooler to fit in here, which means you can either you know, weld on another mounting point on your intercooler and secure it in another location, because there's only the one spot up on the top where it mounts, or just come up with kind of a little fix like this. Now I've glued this piece of rubber in because I did have it installed before and it fell out. So now with a little bit of glue, I'm hoping it'll stay in place. Not really an ideal fix, but should keep it in place for now. Can you watch the curbs? Jesus. Yeah, but you just cut it earlier.